I'm asking because you say that you take the items and you look at items that you think are truth, and then you decide to do something with them. Did you decide that this was either truthful or untruthful, given the way you approached this?
I decided that it wasn't incredibly important, but did I believe it? I thought something happened and that there was an argument, and that I believed that Mr. Alexander apologized. Yes, I did.
I'm not asking that question specifically. You read the entry for September 13th, 2007, right?
Yes, I did.
And it's the written version, correct?
Correct.
I'm asking you if you believe the written version in that exhibit. Yes or no?
Objection. Ask and answer.
Overruled. Did I believe the limited information that was given there?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Did I believe there was an argument?
No, I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you about that black item that's to your left. Do you see that?
Yes, I see
It's
that,
a
but
book.
I'm not...
Ma'am, let me do it this way. It's a journal, correct?
Correct.
In that journal, it's an entry for September 23, 2007, right? September 13th, 2007, right?
The 13th,
right?
Not the 23rd.
Right? This is the 13th, correct?
Yes.
Do you believe that entry for September 13th, 2007, in that black book that's to your left? Yes or no?
Do I believe
that
it was just... Do I believe there was an entry that said... I'm not sure what you're trying to get here.
Well, ma'am, you say that you evaluate what's being told to you for the truthfulness. Didn't you just tell us that earlier today?
Yes.
I'm asking you to tell me, based on your statement that you evaluate things for the truthfulness of it, I'm asking you to tell me whether, after conducting this evaluation for truthfulness, you find that to be truthful or untruthful. That's all I'm asking you.
Objection, Judge, may we approach?
Yes, you may approach.
The entry is September 13, 2007. You've read it, correct?
Correct.
Do you believe everything that is written in the entry of September 13, 2007?
Do I believe everything?
Yes.
I believe the essence of it.
No, I'm not asking whether or not you believe the essence. I'm asking whether or not you believe everything that is written for the entry of September 13th, 2007.
Objection, ask and answer.
Overruled. I believe that...
Is that yes or no, ma'am? And then you could explain.
I basically... Yes, I have no reason not to believe
thank you.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that you told us in taking a look at the defendant's journal was that you saw no evidence of jealousy, right?
Correct.
And that would assume that if you saw no evidence of jealousy, was that all of the entries would be complete and truthful, correct?
Not necessarily.
Well, if some entries were incomplete and untruthful, wouldn't that cast doubt on the completeness of the writings?
Yes, it could.
And so in this case, though, you took a look at all of the journals and all of the writings in the journals, and in response to a question on direct examination, you said, I saw no evidence of jealousy, correct?
That wasn't just about the journals, Mr. Martinez. That was about the other evidence as well.
Right. Assume that you looked at, fine, you looked at the other evidence too, correct?
Correct.
But part of what you used to look at was the journals, right?
I did use the journals as well.
And I want you to focus on the journals only for the purposes of my next questions, correct?
Okay.
And this is the journal that has this law. Whenever the defendant writes, she applies this law, correct?
The law of attraction.
Right, the law of attraction, correct? So that she wouldn't put anything negative in there, right?
She did put some negative things in the journal.
I know that you indicated that she did put some negative things in the journal, but she didn't put anything about Mr. Alexander hitting her, correct?
Right.
Didn't put anything about Mr. Alexander choking her, correct?
Correct.
Didn't put anything of any physical violence from Mr. Alexander to her, correct?
Correct.
Didn't indicate anything about this masturbatory incident to photographs in the journal by Mr. Alexander, correct?
Correct.
So if you look at these journals, they're incomplete the way you view them, right?
Yes.
And you view them as incomplete because it's your position that she didn't want to write anything negative in there because in part of the law of attraction, right?
In part.
So she was censoring herself as she was writing things in there, right?
Apparently.
Well, no, that's what you believe, though, right?
I believe she censored herself. Yes.
Right, and in censoring herself and applying the law of attraction, wouldn't it also be fair to say, if we were looking at the other side of the coin, that in terms of the question involving jealousy, that she probably was jealous, and she just didn't write it down, right?
I have no evidence that she was jealous.
I know you have no evidence of that, but because of the law of attraction, she's not going to put down something that is negative. That would be negative energy to say, I'm very jealous of Mr. Alexander with all these women. That would be a negative thing under the law of attraction as you know it, right?
Saying that you're jealous would not necessarily be
No.
a negative thing.
Writing it down. We're talking about the written word, right?
Saying that she was jealous would not interfere with the law of attraction. Saying that maybe she wanted to handle the jealousy, that would be, she could do that within those parameters.
So being jealous, incredibly jealous, that's a good thing,
Objection is characterized as your testimony.
Overruled.
right?
I didn't say that.
Well, that's my question. Isn't it true that being jealous is a negative thing with negative energy associated with it, right?
Correct.
You see that in your business all the time, don't you?
I see what?
Jealousy in
Yes, I do.
couples that you counsel, don't you?
Yes, I do.
It's a real negative emotion, isn't it? In the people that you counsel, right?
It depends.
Well, okay, so it's positive in some of the couples that you counsel.
No,
Jealousy.
it's not a pattern in some of the couples that I counsel.
I'm not asking about pattern. I'm asking about the emotion of jealousy. In your experience, isn't that a negative emotion?
It's a human emotion.
But it's a positive emotion then. I'm asking you to put a perspective on it for me. Do you view it as somebody who does this forensic evaluations in domestic violence? Do you view it as a positive emotion, jealousy?
I view it in regard to the behavior it generates. So if it generates negative behavior, then it becomes negative. It's an emotion. An emotion in and of itself doesn't have to be particularly negative unless there is very negative behavior associated with it.
Give me examples where jealousy generates positive things from it. Give me an example.
There are people who get jealous, and out of that jealousy, they step back from it, they figure it out, they then approach the person in a positive way.
No, you're talking about treatment. I'm not interested
No,
in
I'm not
treatment.
talking about treatment. I'm talking about what people do with jealousy.
Right. I'm not asking you what people do with jealousy. I want you to tell me a situation, for example, where a woman is very jealous of a man. Tell me, in that circumstance where a woman is very jealous of the man, of all the couples that you've treated, where that woman has done something positive so that we can hold jealousy as a virtue right up there with love.
Objection argumentative.
Sustained.
Give me an example of someone who is afflicted with this incredible jealousy where they do positive things with it.
You're talking about two different things. You're talking about someone who's afflicted with jealousy and someone who has become jealous. Those are very different things.
Let's assume that the defendant, you can't tell us that the defendant was not afflicted with jealousy, can you?
I can tell you I have no evidence in collateral data that she is, and not just in her journal.
Well, I'm talking about the journal. If the defendant were afflicted with jealousy, that would be a negative energy kind of thing in violation of this law that she subscribes to. Yes or no?
What do you mean by afflicted?
What do you mean by afflicted? Isn't that the term that you used just now?
No, you used the term afflicted, and I'm
feeding
it back to you.
You didn't say a person is afflicted with jealousy?
I said it after you said it.
You believe that I was the one that started this then? Okay. There are two types of emotions with regard to jealousy. Do you remember describing them to me just now?
I said there's a difference in a pattern of jealousy, and that's basically the whole context of this testimony, is that there is a difference between, for instance, somebody being angry and somebody having a pattern That's destructive. There's a difference between somebody feeling jealous, which human beings feel, and them acting out in a jealous way and having a pattern of jealous behavior.
Let's assume a pattern of jealous behavior. That's what we're talking about. Can we assume that for purposes of this discussion?
So you're assuming...
No, I'm asking you to just think about this in terms of a pattern of jealous behavior. Can you do that?
You're asking me to hypothetical?
Yes, of course.
And a hypothetical that I have no evidence of.
It's a hypothetical, ma'am. Can you do that?
I can sure
Let's
try.
assume that the defendant has a pattern, a hypothetical pattern of jealousy. You don't see a pattern of jealousy in the journals, do you?
No, I don't.
But that lack of pattern in these journals could be because of the law of attraction, because that's a negative energy kind of emotion or pattern, right?
Objection, speculation.
Well, this law of attraction, this energy that you've talked about, you're saying that a pattern of jealousy is a positive thing under the law of attraction?
I never said that.
It's a negative thing, isn't it?
A pattern of jealousy
Yes.
is a negative thing.
Right. And so that goes against the law of attraction, doesn't it? Where you put out positive vibes, right?
Yes.
And so if the defendant exhibited a pattern of jealousy throughout her life and didn't write about it in those journals, the reason could be because of the law of attraction that you've talked to us about,
Objection,
right?
speculation.
Right?
Nobody has indicated she has a pattern of jealousy.
I just indicated it to you.
You've indicated it in
Objection, and this represents the
in a hypothetical. Hold on.
I indicated it to you, and you're saying that even if it's... My point is this. This pattern of jealousy, if there is one, would not show up in those journals because she wouldn't write about it, right?
Probably not.
And, ma'am, with regard to this pattern of jealousy, one of the things that we can look at for the pattern of jealousy is what an individual has done, in this case, the defendant, in her other relationships, right? That's something to look at, right?
Correct.
Not only is it what they do, but how they handle things, right?
Correct.
You're aware, for example, that the defendant dated somebody by the name of Robert or Bobby Juarez, right?
Correct.
And that when the defendant dated Robert or Bobby Juarez, they broke up at one point. You're familiar with that, right?
Correct.
One of the other things that the defendant testified to was that after they broke up, she got on the telephone and called Mr. Juarez.
Objection, to state the entire point of that testimony.
Approach, please.
She and Mr. Juarez broke up. You knew that, right?
Correct.
After they broke up, the defendant was working at a restaurant. You're aware of that, right?
I don't remember.
If not, assume that that's what she testified to.
Okay.
And she also testified that after the breakup, an older gentleman with a dog-eared Bible came into her restaurant. Assume that. Can you do that?
All right.
Do you know anything about it?
No, I don't.
And when this individual came in, the defendant testified that this individual was prophesizing the end of the world. Do you know anything about that?
No.
Assume it then. And according to the defendant, because this individual came in talking about the end of the world, she decided to pick up the phone and call Bobby Juarez. Did you know anything about that?
No.
That's what she testified to. After she picked up the phone and called Mr. Juarez, she identified herself. Assume that that's what she testified to. Do you know anything about it?
No.
He hung up on her. Assume that. In your assessment as a domestic violence person who has this schooling, in and of itself, if that's the first event, that's really not something that's too much of concern, is it?
No, it isn't.
It's just an individual, as you previously indicated, not wanting to let go, correct?
Correct.